joining in for today's Better and Better podcast for SPAR. I'm Jennifer Kovacic, the Communications Director here at SPAR, and I am with Realtors Chelsea Erickson and Paola Clydesdale. And we're just going to start talking beyond the stats and looking at March of 2024 and what's been happening. March saw a rise in both buyer and seller activity. During the first quarter of this year, seller activity has risen 18%, and pending sales are up 9%. Inventory levels are starting to come up a little bit more as well, and they're up 8% to 6,879 units. Months of supply are up 20% to 1.8 months. And as we've talked about before, balanced market is still that 4 to 6 months. So we're not quite there yet, but making some progress. So I thought I would just jump into questions right away and hear what's going on with real estate in the greater Twin Cities area. In what ways are you experiencing an increase in activity and inventory? And Chelsea, why don't we start with you?
Okay. Well, thank you for having me here. So an increase in activity and inventory. So in my business, we're just seeing that there's more interest this time of year. I think historically this time of year, there's always an uptick, right? Because the sun is out and the birds are chirping and the weather's warmer. And I say that people are kind of coming out of hibernation. So you're right. There's just kind of a natural increase historically, no matter what. But with the, as you're saying that there's statistically an increase and a statistic increase in inventory, that's a good thing, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, we're starting, I have more buyers asking to see homes and more home options for them to choose from. But I'm still, I don't know about you, Paola, but I'm still serving buyers that are running into multiple offer situations. So we're really, we're not through the woods on that yet. How about you?
Same situation. We're running with a lot of competition right now. As soon as that a house pop in the market, everybody's there spying the house, right? And they want to make an offer. The house is properly presentable and it's in the proper in the conditions that people is expecting. And if it looks great, people is making offers above of the listing price. Mm-hmm. Yes. We are in that situation right now, and you're absolutely right about the market increasing, especially in this season.
Right.
Yes.
So in what ways, can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Yes. Let's talk about these multiple offer situations. Mm-hmm. In what ways are your buyers being competitive, or in what ways are you coaching them to be competitive in such a situation?
Well, one of the things that I notice people is looking for, unfortunately, is for appraisal gaps. Yeah. They're looking for that, and some people can afford that, some people can't, and that's the reality. I was having an experience last night where we have this message from this agent. She's calling me and she said, I really want to work with you clients. This is a wonderful offer, and you guys giving a large down payment. You're not asking even for an inspection or closing costs, but can they cover the appraisal gap? And I'm thinking, we will cover the appraisal gap as long as you pay us back the closing costs, right? Otherwise, how people is going to do that when they're putting all this money down, then closing costs, and taking the risk and not having a home inspection as well. So it's kind of like tough situation right now for people out there.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree that appraisal gap is a tricky situation where I have one right now where so I've had many buyers that are not comfortable with an appraisal gap. And just, I'm sure everyone that's listening here knows what an appraisal gap is, but I'm just going to quickly summarize that it is the difference between the agreed upon purchase price and the price or the value that the appraiser puts on the property. So if there is a differential there, that just means that the lender, when there's financing involved, the lender will only lend up to the value of that appraisal. So what the negotiation in advance of that appraisal is, how are we going to deal with that difference if there is a difference, right?
That is correct. And one of the situations that I was confronting, and I was telling this agent, I noticed appraisal gaps being... I noticed appraisal gaps absolutely lately, more than before. I don't know why. Maybe because we have kind of like in 2023, kind of like slow down a little bit because the rates were high. So appraisals were like, oh, people is not paying for multiple offers, highest and best. And last year, sellers were willing to pay closing costs. This year is a different situation now. So what I noticed is when people is offering in a house a larger, let's say this house is $300,000, you offer $325,000, and then you're putting only 3% down. How you gonna cover that up? And then you asking for closing costs in the top of the budget, right? So I noticed when this is the situation, the appraisers are like, okay, this house is not worth $325,000. This house is worth like $300,000, the listing price. And now how the buyers are gonna come out with the difference of the money right now. But when people is putting large down payments, I noticed this increase in the appraisal gap option for the appraiser. The appraisers are more willing and leaning to be flexible and value the properties a little bit higher because they're looking that this purchase agreement has a large down payment.
So are you saying that you've had your buyers that have lower down payments recognize appraisals that aren't coming in where they need to be?
That is correct.
And you're saying that you've had buyers with larger down payments, obviously not the same property, but come in, the appraisals tend to come in more at value, the larger the down payment?
That is what I noticed.
That's what you're noticing. Okay, interesting.
Yeah. Maybe it was a coincidence, but that's what I noticed in the last few transactions that we had.
Okay, interesting.
And how many of your client experiences are you running into this appraisal gap as an issue?
Yeah.
Well, my last couple buyer instances, actually it was the same buyer. We had been in a couple different multiple offer situations where, we weren't quite comfortable. When I say we, the buyer, and, I help guide that buyer as well, right? So we just weren't quite comfortable in the appraisal gap just based on the property. But now the one that the buyer is under contract in has an appraisal gap guarantee on it. And 100%, but we are more confident in the value of the property. And so, I think it just makes that difference of what the product is. So to be continued, I'll let you know how it ends up. But now I kind of hijacked your conversation flow, Jennifer. So.
Well, honestly, I think that's an interesting discussion. And I've heard it here. I've heard it outside of this conversation. So it's definitely happening. And
yeah. We're running into that. And likewise, in a few couple transactions, same situation where we're running with these appraisal gaps because there is no comparables out there. And then you have to renegotiate. And also, what is the clause that you put in the contract? This is an FHA and it's to appraise. This is a conventional buyer. It's time for negotiation once again.
Well, and okay, so you mentioned the higher down payment. It made suddenly my brain click to the point where if someone has greater than 20% down, they're going to be conventional, but they oftentimes have the ability to waive an appraisal because they're considered less risk by the lender. So sometimes if their credit's good enough, they get that appraisal waiver. And so when that comes through too, then that's kind of a whole moot point, right?
Yes, I'm so glad you mentioned about the appraisal waiver because it's very unlikely to see those that often, but it happens once in a while.
With the larger down payment.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, another question I do have for both of you is, what requests are you receiving today that might be different from just a couple months ago? And I know you talked about the multiple offers, so maybe that factors into your answer as well.
Yeah.
Paola?
What is the request? Okay, people is coming to buy right now with different expectations than before. People was thinking, because the rates are higher, we can request closing costs, we can request all these little situations, let's lower the price. The house has been sitting in the market for a few weeks now, and doesn't work like that. Surprise, the house that was sitting in the market last month or a few weeks ago, Now the buyers are out there, they're buying in multiple offers, and that's the reality, and the house is gone and sold. Don't think about it way too much, because people is thinking that it's a good idea to think for a while and analyze this property. Because I've been running in situations with, I noticed the house has been for a month. We look at it in an open house. Now we're thinking of making an offer, since none of the other offers that we submitted were accepted. Can we submit an offer in that one? By that time, the house is gone.
Yeah. So your story just made me think about a buyer transaction that just happened. We closed on Monday, the 15th. The property had been sitting on the market for a while. So if you have those buyers that are constantly in competition and constantly not winning and getting frustrated, looking for those properties that have been sitting on the market for a little bit longer is a really good way to add value for your clients, because if it's been sitting on the market for a while, there's something wrong. It's either overpriced or there's a conditional issue. But then you're going to be talking to a seller that's a little bit more willing to negotiate. So here's my story. Here's my example. Property was on the market 60 to 70 days by the time my buyers make an offer. And they had overpriced the property. We made not only an offer below asking price, but we asked for 3% towards closing costs. That was almost $10,000. In addition, we were able to do our own inspections and put the buyer at ease with the condition of the property. They got it at a price below asking. They got their closing costs done. And you guys, the appraisal came in $30,000 above what they paid for it, right? So that is a win-win. Yes. So, and I should also ask or add that the seller on this property was on the MLS, but they were on the MLS as representing themselves.
I'm so glad you're talking about this right now, Chelsea, because I have the same situation, the way that you describe it, and the seller, it was representing by themselves. And with all the respect, we all have the right to represent ourselves, but it makes a huge difference to have the right team and the right professional representing you.
Yeah. So this seller had a good product for my buyer. The buyer was able to get it at a price that was affordable. They were not in a multiple offer situation because the seller had overpriced to get-go. And in the end, buyers got a great product at a great price and had built-in equity right away. So moral of the story is start looking at those properties that have been sitting on the market for a while and see what buyers you might have to fill that inventory.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a great reminder.
Yes.
Yeah. So we know in recent months people were holding back. Some were hoping that those interest rates would drop again. Homeowners were not really wanting to let go because they had a low interest locked in. Mm-hmm. But we're seeing more people, both buyers and sellers, coming forward and ready to kind of make that happen and take some action and get a deal done with their homes.
Yeah.
So with March, the median home price was up nearly 3% to $366,000, and listings were staying on the market for an average of 54 days, which was down 4 days from the same time frame last year at this time. Sellers accepted offers at almost 99%, just most recently in March, of their asking price, which was also slightly up from this time last year. So it is a good reminder, and you both are sharing this through your stories, that price point and location and what people are looking for and even the strategy that goes into it really varies.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And Jennifer, I feel confident that these statistics are going to change by May, because the median price in the Twin Cities, I feel confident to tell you, is $375 right now for the standard house. And it's going to change. I'm pretty sure about that, especially how the market is reacting right now at this very moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but things can change. And people is been waiting. Oh, we're going to wait for the rates to go down. We are waiting. I had a conversation yesterday with this gentleman, and he mentioned that he's looking to rent for the next couple of years until the properties go down in value or the interest rates go down. And I'm thinking by that time, you're waiting for a couple of years. You tell me how much money did you spend in rates with rent? 100%? right?
Right, absolutely. Because I know appreciation is running between 3 and 5% right now. Year over year, by the time that gentleman decides it's a good time for him to buy, he's going to be spending 3 to 5% more.
Exactly. And I
Year over year.
mentioned to that gentleman, what about the rates? Maybe they will go down, perhaps. We don't know. Let's say they go down. Now the house value is going to go up, because that's what we see lately in the tendencies. When the rates are down, the competition arise. Perhaps, unless something extremely happens in the world.
If people are asking our advice when it comes to rates, then they're open and receptive to the advice. But if they are fixated in their heads about, rates, then that's something that we can't shift. So the idea is to help coach people through that. I can, say that last fall, when the rates were highest, is when I personally made a move. And I gave up my 2.97% interest rate on my home at that time and took out a 7.5% interest rate on the new home. Now, was I doing it because of the rates? No, I was doing it because of the house, right? I needed to buy the new house, and those were just the rates at the time. So the rates have already come down below that 7.5, and we've already been able to refinance down to 6.5. So we'll hang out there for a while, and if they keep coming down, great. Otherwise, my focus is just to pay off the mortgage as quick as I can.
Yeah, and the more you realtor, see?
Yeah, the more, they can only charge you interest on the money you owe them, right?
Yeah.
So if you make one extra principal-only payment per year, you're going to shave 7 to 9 years off the life of the mortgage. So why not do that instead of spend money refinancing? So I'm speaking out of both sides of my mouth right now. But
So this is a good tip for clients like that. They're telling you the rates are high and the prices are rising. Do the move. In the end of the day, you're going to honestly win more versus just renting. You don't have any other options for rent. Rentals is perfect. It's great. It's a wonderful market out there too. It makes sense for the right person in the right moment.
So if you have people that are saying they want to rent, help them crunch the numbers on how much of that rent is going to go towards building an asset versus taking that rent amount and putting it towards a payment on a mortgage, and how you can, just crunch the numbers, run it both ways, help people make those decisions. And ultimately we want them to be wise with their money and their resources. So coach them through that.
Absolutely.
Isn't there a saying, marry the home and date the rate?
Yes,
Because
we
you
heard
can
that a
change
lot
it.
last year. I heard
Really?
I've heard that a few times. It's catchy. So, Paula, you and I yesterday had an offline conversation. We were talking about advice, and you were saying that you're always open to hearing advice from others because it allows you to hear different perspectives, and then you can think about things on your own terms. So I'm curious, and I know we've talked about this throughout this conversation, but what is some other advice you've shared with clients or that you think is even worth sharing with other realtors?
Absolutely. I think a lot of clients also look for the experience in the agents to get the right advice, to be honest. It's worth it to have the right team and somebody on your side that had the experience. And that's what we're doing all of this for all of you too, out there, because I have, in my way here, coming to this podcast, I have this client and he said to me, Paula, you are like our doctor. You tell us what is right for us to do, so we will do it. Just look at it from that perspective. And I'm thinking, wow, this is wonderful. I never heard that one, that I'm like the doctor. Thank you. But I think they feel so much confident because they've been working with us for a few years. We give them the guidance, what is the best option or not, and things of that nature, right? Some people will listen. Some people will call different agents and find out different versions out there and see what is the best advice that they want to hear. That's the other one. And then they're going to make the decision in the end of the day, what is this best suggestion from all the suggestions that they hear out there, what is the best one that's going to fit them in the end of the day?
Mm-hmm. Well, and really, you're with these people making one of the biggest transactions they may ever make.
Absolutely.
And being with them for the highs when things go the way you hope it goes, and even with the lows, and you're trying to pick them up, that there will be hope going forward when it's not the answer they want sometimes.
Yes, absolutely. Like, for example, this morning I was chatting with another client, and he's an experienced buyer already. He has rental property, his own home. He is buying and investing, doing remodelings and so on. And he interviewed a few agents. And I remember meeting this gentleman. I don't know. I remember we were chatting. Hey, remember when I was expecting my first baby? It's going to be 15 years ago when we met. And he said, yeah, I came back to you. Remember you helped me with this, and that. And I'm interviewing other agents out there. And I know you had experience in the right team and the right company, and I want to make sure you represent us and so on. So this is important also, how we present ourselves out there and what kind of suggestions we're giving to our clients, and make sure those suggestions are good and successful so you can have the success in your career as well.
Well, and that leads to a great question, and I'll ask this of you, Chelsea, but how do you share your value as a realtor? You may have opportunities where it's an existing client coming back or somebody new who maybe just is getting into this for the first time.
Mm-hmm. I actually had a gal reach out to me through our Chamber of Commerce last week because she and her husband are thinking about wanting to get into rental real estate. And she had some questions. So I set up time to meet her for coffee and just kind of answer whatever questions were at the tip of her tongue. And then gave her some guidance on how, as a real estate investor myself, how my husband and I started getting into it and some things to think about. So I think my value really comes a lot from my experience and my willingness to share that experience. And I can share a lot of that through stories. So as you're out there serving people, that's our mentality. I think in real estate, we are servants and we are servant leaders because we are leading people through some of the biggest investments of their life, some of their biggest financial decisions. It's not a quick decision. So don't ever think it's going to be a quick decision. It's going to, you're in it for the long haul. You're in it for their decisions today and their decisions in the future and so on and so forth, and their children's decisions, because I have clients that now their children are coming to me, right? So it's being that advocate and it's being available to help answer questions and, in their entirety. It's not a quick fix. It's not a short-term thing. This is a lifetime adventure, and it's a lot of fun if you enjoy it like I do. It's a lifetime adventure, and I personally, and I think you, Paola, and probably everyone in this chamber, this membership here, we all love to serve people, and the stories that you create through doing that is, I share stories. I share a lot of stories.
Yeah, I think the stories is one of my favorite parts, and I learned so much through these conversations. Mood. What is the mood out there among your clients? Because I know there's a mix of everything going on. You have, this buyer that just really had a great experience and multiple offers, and then people that are succeeding, but still dealing with multiple offers as well.
But people out there, I had this morning, this client told me, Paola, now I can sleep after my offer was accepted. I was with so much stress. We were getting so defeated, so disappointed. We were ready to give up. So it's all this mix of emotions right now that people feel. But when you accomplish your goal, it feels really good and you sleep wonderful.
Yeah. Looking at just the business I've transpired here in 2024, I would say 80% of it is working with sellers so far. And one of my most recent sellers, it was very stressful for her. She hadn't moved in 35 years, so there was a lot of anxiety, and I was with her every step of the way, answering questions, guiding her through the sales process. And I recently shared this story through one of my marketing pieces, just that she secretly was really hoping that her home wouldn't have to have a lot of traffic, that she would be able to just, peacefully sell it quietly, kind of off market. And I continued to guide her that is not going to get her the highest return on her investment. And so I encouraged her along the way, and we were able to get it to the point of some, external marketing. And then she got a really nice offer without it, during our coming soon marketing process. She got a really nice offer during that. And she shared with me how she'd been secretly praying that something like that were to happen, and that she wouldn't have to, have all of that traffic in her home. And she was over the moon, thrilled with the offer. We followed the terms of the agreement, and that too has just closed. And now she's off visiting family, just feeling really free. And it was a very fun experience. Again, guiding her through the process that she secretly had a lot of stress about.
Absolutely. And like you said, guidance is the main key here, because we're talking about transactions that just occur, but this one took months and perhaps years to happen and to get to this moment. Mm-hmm. And it's something that agents should know, because a lot of people get in the industry thinking that this is a quick, easy, fast money to make here, and it doesn't work like that. We work really hard for this. And it takes time and tolerance and patience, and we do a lot, and we wear a lot of hats as an agent. So just keep that in consideration, and be mindful of others and our clients, of course.
3,000% agree.
Guidance really is that great word, because not only are you guiding, but you're guiding in the next steps with title and mortgage and the whole spectrum of real estate. So really
movers,
encompasses it.
packing, cleaners, staging, you name it. Yeah.
So I guess my last question, unless there's anything else you guys want to add, is just what are you doing that is creative, if you're needing to be creative right now?
Well, as I mentioned, I'm working with a lot of sellers this first 4 or 5 months, and we've been doing a lot of video, having fun with video and trying to tell the story through video of how to live and enjoy and the memories you can make in the new home that we're putting on the market. And just last year, I for the very first time, I actually jumped in a pool on video to market a home for sale. It was, I kind of had that goal and that dream. So when this home seller came to me and said they wanted me to help them sell their home and they had an outdoor pool, I said, well, Chelsea's going to want to jump in that pool on video. Are you okay with that?
I love that.
So just trying to, think outside the box and figure out, I think with the technology we have today, we can do so much more to help our sellers get yes, there's low inventory, but that does not give us a reason to be lazy. That does not give us a reason to not do all the things to bring the most amount of attention to our seller's property. Because the more attention that we bring to their property, the greater the fishing net, the more the fish, the better that they're going to be at the end of selling their property. And then think of the win you can create by getting their appreciation of all that you've done and how you can continue to serve them in their new home, their family. I mean, you do a good job and the rest will come. So I encourage you to continue to do a good job. Put the signs out, send the emails, do the flyers, send the postcards, do it all. Don't shortcut it.
Yeah. Door knocking to the neighbors, come to the open house.
Open houses as well. You got it, girl. You got
That
it.
sure would be fun as a buyer to see some of the life lived before.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did see a video on, it was a agent out of, I want to say it was definitely in a different state. I want to say it was over on the East Coast. I'm making it up. Let's say it was in Maryland. But it was a video of the house through the eyes of the house. Oh. It was the house talking about the family that it supported for the last 30 years and how, all the things that house did for that family.
I
thought it was the coolest thing ever.
So creativity is abundant in lots of ways.
Be creative.
Be creative.
Yes.
Be yourself and show it in the right way.
Is there anything else either one of you want to add to this conversation before we wrap it up?
Realtors are wonderful. Realtors are needed. We are great. Remember that. And pass that word to the world. So they should know that.
And do all the things that you'll be proud of and that the community will be proud of.
Yes.
Yes.
Because we build great communities too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do good things.
Yep.
Wonderful. Well, Chelsea, Paula, always great to have you here. Thank you so
you.
much.
Thank you, Jennifer.